What's up, hotties? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Leslie, also known as the Hot Mommy, and today I'm gonna do a deep dive into teaching you the benefit of starting over again and again. If that's something you've been thinking about, stay tuned. This video is just for you. Thanks for sticking with me. It's Leslie. It's good to see you again. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. And if you're not, hey hottie, I'm glad to be with you again. Here we love to talk about all things style, fashion, parenthood, food, and everything in between, with the purpose that you can know that the hot life that I lead is something you can do as well. I always want to be sure that everybody who watches this channel knows that it is a radical choice to live your most magnificent life, and that's something that I'm always going to encourage. And especially in today's video, when we're going to talk about the practice of starting over again and again and again. You may know me from my content over on my blog, The Hot Mommy. Perhaps you know me from my television show, Butter and Brown. Maybe you've seen me on random episodes of Awkward Black Girl, or perhaps you've just seen me around the internet. Now, I've been creating content for over 12 years on the internet, but that doesn't mean that it's always been a series of wins. In fact, it's probably been a few more losses, but that's okay, because one of the things that I've learned over the course of this career is how to start over. And I know that that's something that we struggle with, because most of us feel like if we have to start from the top, it means that we failed and we reached the end and we just are not going to see how something great is going to come out of that. But I can tell you and promise you that that is not true. There has been years where I've spent time feeling discouraged, especially as a content creator, feeling like my channels, my platforms, my accounts are not growing or changing or doing anything that I want them to do. I've compared myself to other people. I wondered, why are they winning and I'm not? I wondered, what am I doing wrong? Starting over just means opportunity. It just means another chance to learn something new, to get closer to your purpose, and to figure it out. Honestly, you being here on this YouTube channel is proof that starting over is just the thing you may need to do. Something to me that's really important to note is that life is a series of seasons. As kids, we all learn about winter, spring, and summer, fall. We've kind of learned to apply that to Earth, but not ourselves. Interestingly enough, we feel like everything else can go through change, but that doesn't mean that I have to. It doesn't mean that I want to be the person who's going to shift my life around or have to figure things out. And trust me, I get that. But we all have spring seasons, we all have summer, we have fall, and we most certainly have winters. What I think is really important is to learn how to get through your winter seasons so that you can actually reap the benefits of your spring and your summer seasons, and you can prepare better for your winters in the fall. You've all heard the phrase that nothing lasts forever, and for me that always felt very jarring. Like, I'm a person who is so optimistic to the point of delusion that hearing nothing lasts forever for me felt like it was just giving up before anything could really begin. And so I've never really liked that phrase. But maturity in life is understanding that the phrase nothing lasts forever is not a condemnation, but in fact it's an opportunity clause. It helps you understand that whatever you're going through, right, especially hardship, it cannot last forever. Things ebb, they flow, they go up, they go down. And the more you start to understand that, the more you'll be willing to know that it's okay to start over, because that is just the nature of life. For the past few years, I honestly was in my own personal winter, and it was really, really difficult. You know, coming down from having a television show, filming pilots, working with networks, to suddenly feeling like every single thing dried up. And for me, it really felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not good at this job. Like, I can't be in front of the camera. Perhaps I don't know how to write. Maybe I'm not really creative. It really started to take a toll on kind of my personal value system. It made me feel like I don't think I'm ever going to be good at anything. And so I kind of just hunkered down and went into a very like depressive, sad episode. But the thing is, things end. Sometimes it's just a season, and that season of my life came to an end, and it was time for me to learn what did I need to get out of that, and how can I take what I learned in that spring where I harvested all those things, and in that summer season where everything was blooming, everything was blossoming. You know, it was just fun. What did I learn in that time period, right, that I needed to take into my winter to hunker down so that I could start sowing new seeds in another spring so I can experience another summer again? The greatest lesson that I learned is that acceptance is huge. The longer you try to fight the waiting season, the longer it will be. And when I tell y'all, I have tried to fight my waiting seasons so often. I can like think back now in my life because I understand sort of like the seasonal process now. I can look back and remember some of my winters and just feel like they lasted so long because all I did during that time was beg, beg, beg God, okay, all the time. Please just let me get out of this. Lord, let me get out of this. Make it in. And so instead of focusing so much on the fact that you're in a holding period, right, that you're in a winter, be comfortable. Hibernate, right? Understand that it is okay to be at rest. And I think we live in a society where we're made to feel that we constantly have to be moving. We constantly have to be productive. And if we're not going, then there's almost this thought process that we must not be doing enough and nothing is going to come of that. But that's just not true. The thing that you have to understand is that there's power in patience. The more that you learn to sit down and accept, hey, I'm in a winter. That means I got to chill out. That means I just get to get cozy with me. Maybe that means I need to do some learning. This is a moment where I get to read some books. This is a moment where I get to do a lot of research. This is a moment where I get to find out some things about myself, right? Because I'm not moving and shaking and doing all kinds of things that can prepare me for the seeds that I need to plant in my spring and then again for my harvest time in the summer. If you don't sit and you don't figure out why you're in your winter, it will take so long for you to get out of it. And the second thing you have to understand about starting over is that trust is key. It's like when you're in your house during the winter season. When you turn on the heat, you really do trust that it's going to heat up your whole house, right? That's the belief. If I cut this heat on, I'm going to warm up. Everything's going to be fine. You also trust that it's going to protect you from the outside elements. That whatever is going on out there can't really touch you inside of the house. And it's the same thing when you're in your personal winter season. You have to learn to trust that God and the universe have you under control, that it's all working out for your good. That is a phrase that I learned as a child growing up in church, and I believe that it's something that can be applied to everything, whether you believe in a higher power or not. You have to understand and trust everything is working out for my good. It's what the girls on TikTok like to call the lucky girl syndrome. You just have to know that things are going to be okay. And that's an element of trust that truly has to be practiced and learned. When we've experienced a series of losses, it's almost like we forget how to win. We're so convinced that nothing else can come that we really are keeping those things away from us. The key to being able to start over time and time again is very simply trusting that, hey, it's going to be all right. It's all going to work out for my good. I know how hard that can be. I'm not a person that easily trusts in general. And I'm certainly somebody that has been skeptical about like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And I know that sometimes that can honestly be counterintuitive to, again, like the kind of optimistic, sort of delusional person that I can be. But that is something that I've learned to become, right? And it's because of that trust. It's because of knowing like things are going to be okay. It's going to be fine. This is just a holding period. This is a waiting season. This is my winter. But I know that my spring will come again. I know that I'm going to experience a summer. And that's the kind of stuff that you really just have to tell yourself. This is how I'm going to get through the seasons of my life. Acceptance and trust. And during those trust periods, something that I usually have been able to practice that has helped me a lot is asking myself a few questions. One of the first questions is, what did I learn or what became clear about me or a situation whenever I experienced a win? Think about the times that you felt something great happen in your life. What was actually going on then? Like, think about the series of events that took place for you to get to that win. What were you doing? Were you being prepared? Were you practicing when somebody like came to you and offered you an opportunity? I highly doubt that you were sitting around doing absolutely nothing. Even if you were just like preparing yourself by reading books or trying to figure out what you needed to do to learn something, that is how we start to create opportunity for ourselves, is by figuring out what's going on before our win. Next question that I would ask myself is, what changed in my life, right? How did I get to this place that I'm now experiencing a winter again. And when I think about that, I remember when I had freshly graduated from college, this is when I entered into like a super duper winter season. And I honestly think that that's kind of typical, right? What changed in my life is that I was shifting from being a kid and being in college to now like being this full-fledged adult that had to figure out how to go get a job, that had to figure out how to like survive, right? And that is definitely an example of having to start over again and again. Even if you didn't go to college, you graduated from high school. That's a change in your life. So you had to learn how to like switch from being that sort of kid to now being an adult. You've quit a job, or you've had to leave a job, or you've been fired from a job. That is a significant change in your life that can lead you kind of into a winter season, but that's okay, because now you can ask yourself like, what did I learn at this job? How did it change? You know, what did I learn in college? And so when I realized that usually winter seasons come after these big changes in my life, then I learned how to kind of like prepare myself for an impending winter. Another question that I asked myself is, what was I doing when I experienced the shift in my life? What happened when I went from like winter to spring and spring to summer? Like, what was going on? And so I can tell you, after that period of graduating from college, I was just constantly like applying for jobs. I mean, I applied for over like 200 jobs. It was honestly very crazy. And I was like, dang, why am I not getting any of these jobs? Like, obviously I'm educated. Obviously I know what I'm doing. But what I realize now, looking back, you know, oh my gosh, I went to college 20 years ago. What I realize now looking back is that God was really preparing me to understand that I'm going to have the experience of being an entrepreneur. I'm going to have the experience of being a creator. I'm likely not going to be somebody that gets a traditional job and moves up this corporate ladder in the way that I thought I was going to be doing. And now I can see that, right? In the midst of that winter, I didn't see that. I was like, I know you lying. Like, not me having paid all this money and can't go get a job. But the thing is that that's not what my college experience was for. Right? My college experience wasn't just to prepare me to go get a job. That was to give me family. That was to teach me about what it meant to be myself. That was to help me be comfortable in my body. That experience was to build up my self-esteem. It was to give me a confidence in myself that cannot be shaken. So every experience that we go through is not meant for kind of like this end that we all anticipate. And for me, that's what my college experience was. And so being able to accept that, right? And now being able to trust that I have knowledge. That's not hard, right? I have that now in the bag. So I trust that whatever I learned there, the confidence and everything that I learned in myself, the knowledge that I learned in myself can help get me through these winters. So learning to understand the patterns in what's happening during your winter can really help you start from the beginning. Every single time you go through what's like a waiting season, you take inventory of what's been happening in your springs and in your summers. And then that's how you're able to start over and be fresh again when your season finally does change. You may be wondering why I'm using this seasons analogy so much, but I think it's such an ideal way for us to process what happens in our lives. We all understand seasons so vividly, right? We know that there's 3 months of this, 3 months of that, 3 months of this, 4 times during the year. And so we kind of anticipate that inevitable change. But what we don't always anticipate is those seasons in our own lives. And so this has been a way that I've been able to practice being okay with some of my waiting seasons and some of my winters. And trust me when I say it wasn't easy for me. It was something that I really had to work through and that I'm still processing and working through right now. You know, I had to realize that when I was going through a lot of those waiting times, I spent so much of it being sad and being like worried that I wasn't going to get to the next phase of my life, that I wasn't going to get to the next step in my career. And that can be really like just challenging and debilitating. It can leave you kind of sitting in one place stagnant and then you can't do anything. So that brings me to the next thing that I want to tell you about starting over again and again. And that's that every new beginning brings you closer to your purpose. As a kid, I grew up hearing about purpose so much. You guys, it honestly is crazy. So every single year at my church, there was something called a purpose conference where we would spend like a week going to all these workshops, basically trying to figure out like what it is that we're here for. Some of them were, you know, very personal, like people would go to very specific workshops to just kind of help you unearth and dig up all these things that have been put inside you before you got on this planet, right? And everything else kind of came and started happening in your life. So I've always been someone who was very, very focused on my purpose. Like, At times it felt like this huge thing that I couldn't figure out on my own. It felt like something that I was never going to really understand. But what I've come to realize is that each time I go through a period in my life where things are just like really great and I'm experiencing this ramp up and I'm learning all these things, inevitably I'm going to come into a pause again, right? Where then I get to learn something new, where I get to start over once more. And remember, nothing lasts forever is not a condemnation. It's an opportunity clause. And so what I've learned in those opportunities, now that I've been able to understand and really value going back, is that, oh, each of those times was helping me get closer to what it is that I'm really supposed to be doing. The truth of the matter is, no matter how much we ask kids in kindergarten through the time they're in the 12th grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? You don't know. I don't know. Like, what? That is such a weird question, I think, for us to kind of put onto people. Like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, first of all, I don't even know who I'm going to be when I grow up. So how can I determine what I want to be? But each of the opportunities that you get to start over gives you a chance to figure that out along the way. And honestly, all the things I've been involved in, from, you know, going away to college, from coming back home, working with creators, working with television networks, you know, doing none of that and just having to kind of work for myself. All of those things have helped guide me along to where I'm supposed to be. And it's helped me realize the purpose that I have, which is to impart into women, especially Black women, letting them know that they can choose to live their most magnificent life. I didn't figure that out when I was 5. When I was 5, I wanted to be a lawyer. Like, I didn't know that I wanted to do any of this. None of this work, none of this whole sort of like industry didn't even exist. But what I realized is that when I graduated from college and wasn't getting a job, right, and wasn't getting that sort of traditional job, that was the preparation I didn't know of getting me in front of a camera. When I was a kid and I was doing plays at church or acting and people were like, oh my God, Leslie, you need to be on TV. That was kind of like the little implementation of that seed being planted within my life to know, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And now, as somebody who's almost 40, I'm just now figuring that out. If there's anything that I want to tell people who are in their 20s, who are in their early 30s, it's that you don't have it all figured out when you're 26. You can't. There's just not enough life. You haven't had enough winters. You haven't had to start over enough to be able to figure out what you need to do to get to that purpose. So something that's also recently clicked to me was that purpose doesn't just drop down on you in one fell swoop, but that it comes in these like revelations over time as you continue to start over. It shows up in your life every single time you decide to get up again after something has failed or after something has just ended, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a lost job, whether it's you moving. Each of those opportunities is a time for you to start over again and figure out what it is you're moving towards. Remember, if you're keeping in mind that all things work out for your good, then starting over can only be great for you. I know that starting over is something that can be really challenging, but it gives you the opportunity to get hungry again. It gives you the opportunity to start digging deeper and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, what to bring with you and what to leave behind. And so the one thing that I want to encourage you to understand is that there's nothing wrong with starting over. Starting over gives us the opportunity to get it right. It gives us the opportunity to change some of the things that we may have gotten wrong in the past, and that's okay. Learning to understand and appreciate your winters and getting through them and hunkering down and figuring out what's going on with you helps you know what seeds you need to plant in your spring, so that when it comes time for the harvest in your summer, you can get through that with joy. You can be excited when your wins show up, and you'll realize that you haven't forgotten how to win, but you did have to prepare for it. Hopefully this video is something that helped you all today. And honestly, I love doing these type of things. Being able to sit down and impart into people's lives and hopefully give you some inspiration is something that I feel purposed to do. But I wouldn't have known that if I had never decided to start over again and come back to YouTube from the top. Everything that we do starts with us having to rebuild something at some point, and it's okay. You want to make sure that you have a solid foundation before you can go on and continue try to build things on shaky ground. So remember, starting over is not a failure. Accepting your winter season is one of the keys to getting through it. Learning to trust that things are going to work out for you is another huge part of getting through your waiting season. And remember, nothing in life lasts forever, and that's why it's okay to start over again and again and again. If you loved everything that I dropped in this video today, be sure to subscribe. Drop me a comment below about the thing you've been afraid to start over with in your life, and hopefully I can give you a word of encouragement to help you get through it. Please give me a big thumbs up on this video and share this video with a friend who's also been struggling with trying to figure out if they should start over. Let them know that it's okay and things are going to work out all right. As always, I appreciate you being here with me because I love being here with you, and I can't wait until I see you later on this week. Bye.